Hello, my friends. I'm glad you're here. What happens when we blink? The long answer is pretty obvious. We blink to clean our eyes, to keep them moist. But we also blink to allow our brains to process incoming images and stimulate our retinas. In the flash of time it takes to blink, our brains also do a momentary reset in an attempt to allow mental information to form and be considered. But during that time, for the briefest of moments, our brains stop. What happens during that time? That time we don't notice we aren't thinking, aren't looking, aren't processing. The short answer is everything. Close your eyes and enter the Blinkspace. I have seen the future. I am terrified and I am at peace with that. I can't show anyone else the future. I'll certainly never see it again. I do, however, with an internal compass confidence, know that this is it. I don't have to see it again. I just know. I knew it as soon as I saw the pony. The paths between my house and my work run through the wetlands area. All the developments within 3 miles drain into this area, into the sullen creek, threading through it. A couple times a year, the whole thing floods from upland rain, then drains again, reeking of moist rot and leaving silty slicks that summer and the passage of feet eventually destroy. It's harmless, and no one will ever build here. Paths sliver this wetland into long strips, sometimes disappearing into housing developments, sometimes dead-ending at lonely park benches, sometimes looping back on themselves like a duck-infested decline bottle. The asphalt of the paths is old, cracked, and humped up from underlying tree roots doing the things that underlying tree roots have done since the beginning of time. Sometimes the paths are in the open. Sometimes the paths twist under thick trees. 4 different kinds of people use these paths. First are the day people, with their oh-so-bright clothes, their MP3 players strapped to their biceps, or their pert little Bluetooth sets. They huff and puff and jog and shout out their cheerful mating calls, morning, good morning, to each other and to anyone so hapless as to cross their paths. I've seen them greet dogs, unaccompanied dogs. Day people are like the sun. They're everywhere, and you can't get away from them. The second are the night people. They brood and pace and smoke. They grind up their daily life debris, sucking down cigarettes, weeping over breakups, fuming over personal transgressions. Sometimes they perch on the playground swings, squeaking back and forth while they formulate random plans. You see the cherries of their cigarettes, or you sometimes hear them, but there is no talking with the night people. The third are people like me, and I can tell you we are few in number. We use the paths for business, going to or from and at ungodly hours. We watch the sun rise in the morning and we watch the sun set in the evening. In the evening, we watch the day people drift away and the night people slouch in. In the morning, we watch the night people slink away and the day people bounce in. I'm neither, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a good thing. People like me don't really like people very much, including other people like me. We don't talk to each other. The fourth kind of people, though, I didn't even know they existed until I saw the pony. Of all the habits I've acquired in my life, none has been so peculiar as my quietness. I can't remember when I thought that would be a neat thing to learn, but it was early grade school. All the other kids were noisy, and I wanted to be quiet. I wanted to be so quiet they didn't know I was there. After years of practice, I've become pretty good at it. I can creep on practically any surface. I can shuffle or hitch my feet unless I want people to hear me, and I pay a lot of attention to where I'm walking. Being quiet isn't just footsteps either. This took a while to learn and understand. It's everything else you do. It's how you breathe, how you move your body, how you dress, everything. All these things contribute, and if you do them all right, nobody will ever know you're there. My neighbors probably think my apartment is empty. I'm fine with that. I can't imagine getting on well with them, based on what I hear through my walls. Everyone else is noisy. You don't realize how noisy other people are until you're quiet. I suppose that's obvious, but you really have to experience it to understand it. Being quiet has a lot of benefits. You learn more when you're quiet. Some of those things are things other people might not have said if they knew you were around. So that can be a mixed blessing. Also, it's fun. Try and see how complicated a day you can have and still be completely silent. It's like always playing a personal game in your head. And of course, if I weren't so quiet, I would never have seen the pony. A particular section of my morning path is even less frequented than the rest. Roots heave through the asphalt, completing the cycle begun by the tangled tree crowns overhead. The creek is only a few yards away, and the draft is very shallow, so this section floods often, coating the trees with mud and flotsam. Most people avoid this part of the path because there is a much more civilized one parallel to it that runs in front of a housing development with lots of people visible and lots of social interaction. I prefer the path for exactly the same reason, because everyone else is somewhere else. If that's not a good reason, I don't know what is. It was on that particular piece of the path, while I was walking without noise, just before I emerged from the dark canopy of trees, that I saw the pony. I heard it before I saw it, a soft pat-pat of feet on the asphalt. At first I had no idea what would be causing that sound, and then I saw it, and it saw me. In that instant, I knew the future. I'm sure that at some point in the distant past, 100 million years ago or so, a huge dinosaur was tearing up the vegetation, or chowing down on some other huge, probably dead dinosaur, and noticed, barely, the tiny furry things skittering off in the bushes or at the edge of the kill. Too small to screw with, and they certainly don't eat enough to even be noticed. So no sense in paying attention to them. Is it possible, I wonder, for that dinosaur, somewhere deep in its brain, to recognize that this insignificant little furry thing was a precursor to the rise of mammals? Is it possible that somewhere a dinosaur saw these creatures and recognized them for what they were, that this was their own future, staring them right squarely in the face? I wonder if it shocked them. I wonder if they felt, in their minds, the whispered knell of their own end. I know I did. It stood, at most, 3 inches tall. Its skin was smooth, hairless, and translucent. In the moment we stared at each other, I could have sworn it was a toy. A detailed, delicate toy. A mad creation from the line of mad creations, creatures as different from us as a vole might be from a dinosaur. Its forelegs ended in slender paws, each splitting into thin fingers that gripped the rocks of the asphalt. Its head narrowed into a glass bulb, like a child's drawing of a seahorse, and 2 black dots marked eyes. Across its tiny haunches draped lacy bags, woven of forest silk and stuffed with sweet maple helicopter seeds and 1 enormous blackberry, early for the season. Food for days. I stared at the pony, this creature that was at once so common and at the same time so alien. I stared at it for long seconds, my eyes watering, because staring at this creature was infinitely easier for my stunned mind than to try and take in its rider. It balanced on the pony, boneless legs curled underneath, thin skin pulsing with blue and pink fluid. I forced myself to look at it, to see it. With inky pinprick eyes, it stared back at me. It blinked once, a thin, flashing film. Softly and without a sound, I inhaled. My world fell apart. I saw the future. I saw the giants of the world consuming food and themselves in a manner nothing less than obscene. Mountains of food chewed, swallowed, excreted, and reproducing, mating, sweating, seething, and spreading across the planet in a desperate gamble for immortality. But ultimately, like all of nature's large-scale experiments, doomed, and knowing it. This was the future. The future was tiny and small and quiet and could live for weeks on 3 seeds and a berry. The future's feast was the crumbs of our leaving. We will eat, consume, and eventually destroy ourselves, but the future will enter a world that is an unimaginable bounty. It leaned forward, nudging the pony, and reluctantly the pony continued across the path. I did not move. Pat, pat, pat. Just as it drifted into the salal of the edge of the path, it spared one last look at me. I lost myself in the eyes of the future. I don't take that path anymore. I don't know anyone who does. I take different routes. I walk with others. I drive sometimes, playing my music loud. I prefer the company of people whenever I can get it, the chatter, the buzz of common life. I am noisy. I avoid the quiet. When it's quiet, when I can hear nothing else outside my skull, I still hear the footfalls of the pony, the soft pat, pat, pat of the future. I am terrified of this sound. I am terrified, but I am at peace with it. If you've enjoyed this story, many more can be found in the collection of short stories by Edward Martin III, Close Your Eyes, Tales from the Blinkspace, available at Hellbender Media at hellbendermedia.com. Also, please consider joining their Patreon at patreon.com/hellbendermedia. This story was written by Edward Martin III and recorded and edited by Andrew Wakefield, who can be found at youtube.com/@awake since 1963.